Hi there, welcome back to another episode of the Achilles Twins Travel Show. You are listening to the local series where we talk about the country and its culture with locals. This episode is about Scotland. Did you know that you can take the shortest commercial flight in the world in Scotland? The journey from Westray to Wataboi in Orkney Islands is approximately 1.5 miles long and it takes just about a minute. We've learned a lot of interesting things about Scotland that we've never heard before, so please enjoy our conversation with James Wilson. Hi, James. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, no problem. Nice to meet you both.
Yeah, likewise. So, tell us a little bit about yourself and what is it that you do?
Okay, from a work perspective or socially or a bit of both?
A little bit of both.
Okay, cool. So I live in Edinburgh, which is the capital city of Scotland. I've lived here for about 20 years. I work for a bank, Tesco Bank. I think Tesco is quite a well-known organisation across the world, so you may have heard of it. Currently,
Hmm.
I'm a project manager for the credit risk analytics team. So the team works on models for predicting bad debts and saving cost savings, etc. From a personal
Hmm.
perspective, I host people through couchsurfing. I've done that for quite a few years now. So I'll quite like meeting people from different parts of the world, embracing their culture, etc., getting to sample their food. Just generally hosting people I quite enjoy, and particularly enjoy meeting new people as well. So I'm quite a sociable kind of person. I also play badminton once a week. A friend and I run an LGBT badminton club, which we play on a Thursday evening for a
Hmm.
couple of hours. That's good fun. I like to go walking, running, and cycling in my free time, and I go to the cinema quite a lot as well. I watch a lot of movies.
Oh, that's good. And you have some really nice reviews on couch surfing. And for some people who have never heard about that, it's the platform that allows people to host people from different places for free to learn about the culture and learn about their country, right?
Yeah, for sure. I've done more hosting than surfing personally, but most all of my reviews are positive, which I'm quite happy about. And I have stayed with people in different countries, more so Spain, 2 or 3 years ago before the pandemic. But yeah, and I've stayed with someone in Paris, in England a few times just to sort of test it out what it was like, and then predominantly Spain, as I say.
Yeah. And did you host anyone from Tajikistan?
I haven't, no, but I have hosted people from near you, Kazakhstan.
Ah,
That's probably the
Kazakhstan.
closest.
Ah,
And then I've
I
hosted people
see.
from Russia, but that's a large land mass to cover. But I think Kazakhstan's probably the closest to where you live.
Yeah, it's quite close.
Yeah. So
Wow.
there was two girls there. I think they were part Korean as well, but they were two sisters, similar to the situation as you, two brothers. So there were two sisters came traveling from Kazakhstan.
Yeah. How do you guys greet each other? I mean, I've read that people in Scotland, they are quite expressive, so you must be hug each other, or how do you greet each other?
Yeah, so I mean, how we say hi and hello and stuff is very similar to how most native English speakers are. We occasionally say "how's you," which is probably really
Hmm.
bad grammar, but it's our version of "how are you" kind of thing. Before the pandemic, we were probably a lot more huggy kind of people. I guess it's for me if it's new people coming to stay with me, for example, through couchsurfing, it was probably more
Yeah.
a bit of a formal handshake. We're talking pre-pandemic, so a handshake and all nice. And then with some people, if you got on particularly well with them, then they spend 2 or 3
Yeah.
days in your company. Then you probably hug them goodbye, kind of thing, because it's almost like you've made a new friend, kind of thing. And that's not always the case, but most of the time you get on well with all of your guests, surfers, for want of a better word. So yeah, I've made quite a lot of new friends across the world through couchsurfing. Um, and if it's with my friends that live in the city, then yeah, pre-pandemic, certain friends we would hug, hello or goodbye
Hmm.
kind of thing as well.
I see. What do you think? What might surprise foreigners if they visit Scotland?
I think if we talk about Scotland in general, I think they'd be surprised at how friendly Scottish people actually are. Because I think a lot of movies and television shows depict Scottish people as a Glaswegian with a really strong, hard accent, and they often come across as very angry people, which maybe sometimes we are, but I think generally we'd be surprised at how friendly the Scottish and approachable we are. Outside of the cities, people are even more friendly than they are in the cities, if you like. And I think they'd be surprised at the Scottish Highlands and the scenery that we have. I think some of the scenery we have in Scotland is second to none. And it sounds like I'm biased, but I've been to New Zealand as well, and their scenery is very similar to ours. So I think from a non-biased perspective, I think we have beautiful countryside in Scotland. It's very green because we do get enough rain to keep things looking lush and green throughout most of the
Wow.
year.
And what about the haggis? It seems to me quite surprising thing. So it's not a diaper.
Sorry, repeat the
I
question,
mean,
sorry.
haggis. Can you explain what is that haggis? Because it's something that might be surprising.
Um, the sound of it sounds quite harmless, and it probably is. But when you describe what it is, traditionally, then it kind of puts people off. It's not for the faint. It's
Yeah.
not for a vegetarian, and it's certainly not for vegans. That's for sure.
Okay.
Um, so traditionally, it is the sheep's stomach is the outer part of the shape of the haggis, and then basically it's the leftover parts of the sheep that's kind of ground down into like a mince kind of texture, like tiny small fragments of meat, and then it's a lot of oats and then spices put through it. So, and then blood. So from that perspective, probably doesn't sound very appealing, but
Yeah.
it is very tasty.
Uh-huh.
There is a vegetarian version of it which doesn't taste 100 miles away from the original version,
Hmm.
but there is no such thing as a vegan version, so I don't think vegans would particularly enjoy it. But it's an acquired taste.
Mm.
I love it, yeah. It's very versatile. Before it used to be more a traditional dinner. In Scotland, we have a very famous poet, Robert Burns. I don't know if you've heard of him. So to commemorate him, where we have Robert Burns Day on the 25th of January each year. For that, we would have haggis, neeps, and tatties, which is very Scottish for neeps is probably turnip or swede, if you're familiar with that, and tatties is potatoes, basically. And then you probably have a small shot of whiskey to go with that.
Uh-huh.
So that would be like a traditional dinner that we would have round about the 25th of January each year. So yeah, but nowadays it's very versatile. We have like a you have like an English breakfast. Have you heard of an English breakfast before?
Yeah, yeah. From textbooks.
Yeah, so we have a Scottish breakfast, which is very similar to the English breakfast, but we have haggis with it on the side as well. We now get haggis
Ah,
pizza. We now have haggis flavored crisps, so it's quite a versatile flavor or food.
yeah. Tajiks also have something similar here. But we
Yeah.
we eat it with the soup, right? Yeah, and it's not like haggis where you put everything inside and it looks like the. I
Sausage.
mean, yeah. So here we just fry all of them together and then eat. So it's just on a plate and yeah.
Yeah, I think is it quite dark in text in color with little bits of white bit through it.
Um, some like liver and the some other part
Ah, okay, so it's just the individual ingredients together, but
together.
not
Yes.
minced together, if you like. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. Because some countries, I think in Spain, you have blood
Hmm.
pudding, which
Oh,
we also have. We have black pudding as well, which is different from haggis, and we would probably have that as part of our Scottish breakfast as well. But that's more blood pudding, and it's definitely not for vegetarians either.
yeah. Do you have it on special occasions or you just like, let's have haggis today?
You can have it anytime you want. I think traditionally it was more special occasions like Robert Burns Day in particular, but now it's part of everyday food like on a pizza topping or a flavour of crisps, or you can have nachos with haggis. It's so versatile now that you could put it with more or less anything. You could have a
Hmm.
pie and put haggis and chicken together, or we have something called Balmoral chicken, which is a chicken breast which is stuffed with haggis and then wrapped with bacon, so and served with a whiskey sauce. So it's used quite a lot more now than it ever used to be.
Mm. You said you've had a lot of guests from different countries. I'm curious, what did you think
Hmm.
about haggis? Did they like it?
Well, we do try to be fair and describe what it is traditionally, and then tell people that it's not like that
Hmm.
anymore, kind of thing. Because like, what was the sheep stomach is now replaced by, the skin that's on the outside of a sausage, really thin one. That's what's on the outside of haggis now.
Oh, okay.
But there is a
Uh-huh.
vegetarian option, so we do recommend people try it at least. You can have it as a small starter, so it doesn't have to be a huge portion, or you can share it amongst people. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think most people that have tried it have actually quite liked it. It's more particularly people from South America quite like it because it's slightly
Yeah.
spicy, not hot spicy, just flavored spiced.
Mhm.
So most people that have tried it have actually quite liked it.
Interesting. Uh,
Just just don't think about the ingredients too
yeah.
much.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe dark room would be better to have it for the first time, so you don't see what's inside.
Yeah, well, how it looks is fine. You couldn't tell from looking at it what's actually in it. So yeah, don't worry about it too much.
Okay, cool. And another interesting thing that I read about Scotland, the official animal is unicorn. Was it a joke or yeah, how
Yeah,
come?
that's quite funny but cool at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have the unicorn and England has the lion. So I think in some of the flags you have a lion with a chain round the unicorn's neck. So it's almost like the unicorn is enslaved to the lion because the lion's like the king of the jungle, or whatever you want to say, the animal
Hmm.
kingdom kind of thing. So I find that quite interesting and disturbing at the same time. But we quite like it because obviously the unicorn is quite a mythical creature. It's also from the gay and lesbian community. The unicorn is quite symbolic for them as
Oh,
well. And I think what I like with the correlation there is Scotland's quite a progressive and forward-thinking country, and quite welcoming of all sort of cultures and sexuality and all these kind of
hmm,
things. So I think it's a good symbol to have as your national emblem for the
yeah.
country.
And is it something that you will see every day? I mean, everywhere, like in a shopping mall, or where can you see the unicorn?
No, not that often. Just on like outside in Edinburgh, there is a Holyrood Palace,
Uh-huh.
and there's a gallery attached to that called the Queen's Gallery, which has the lion and unicorn together as a sort of emblem of the United Kingdom or Great Britain kind of thing. But generally, you don't see that many unicorns, to be honest. They're quite mythical creatures, so they occasionally pop up in the odd movie and television show now and again. But from it's more from a sort of a fun aspect, and again back to the sort of LGBTQ
Hmm.
community, you'll see unicorns being used as symbolic of pride and all these kind of things, but it's not everyday sort of culture. We probably more likely have the blue and white flag, which represents Scotland, which is the saltire. Are you familiar with that?
No.
So that's what you see more of that than the unicorn, I would think.
Mm, I see. Yeah. You know, most of my 6-year-old students, whenever I ask them, like, what's your favorite animal? They say unicorn. Mostly girls, right?
Yeah,
Girls,
we've got
yeah.
the best. We've got the best animal in the world, really.
Yeah, that's interesting.
We picked wisely.
Yeah. Um, One more question. I think you've been asked a lot, probably. Do you believe in Loch Ness monster?
Um, not in the sort of way that people would think. I think there maybe is something in there. It's maybe an old dinosaur or some pre-old animal of some shape or form, but there's too many sightings for something not to be there. But I have no idea what it is. But it just is a legend that continues to
Mm,
thrive, and I can't see it ever coming to an end because the depth of Loch Ness is so deep that
Yes.
you probably will never know what's truly at the bottom. Apparently, there's more water in Loch Ness than there is in the whole of England's lakes and rivers and everything. So
Wow.
that tells you the magnitude of the amount of water in one loch in Scotland than the whole makeup of England or canals, rivers, ponds, lakes, everything. So there's a lot of water there. So I think there's maybe underground there's some kind of connection from Loch Ness to the sea. So the animal comes in and out eat freely. So that's why you don't see it all the time, if such a thing exists. But I'd like to think something does exist, but I would hate to think it got proven and we knew exactly what it was because I quite like the mystery that's involved with it all.
Yeah, probably there is something because some people, there are so many evidence. I mean, some people believe that they saw it.
Yeah, and I don't dispute that they've seen something, but I'm not sure if it's the Loch Ness monster or just some smaller creature that they
Probably.
think they've
Yeah.
seen, kind of thing. But it's good for tourism, so we're not complaining.
And what are the three aspects of your culture you want to put in a time box for
Yeah.
the future?
Well, we kind of touched upon one of them before, so we would maybe if we could sort of freeze haggis. So it depends if this is going to be dug up in 100 years' time or 1,000 years' time or something. But certainly haggis, and then if we run out of natural resources to produce it, then it'd be good to preserve it to see if we could continue making it in 100, 200 years' time or something. Um, I was trying to think. I think maybe bottle up some of the Scottish culture, like music, comedy, etc., just to see if it still is as popular in the future or how it's evolved in that time. And I did have a third option, but I've completely forgotten it now. I can't remember. I had it all prepared early and I've forgotten.
Yeah, it's fine. Maybe later you'll remember. Uh, we've already talked about this a little bit, but
Oh, sorry.
yeah,
I've just remembered what the third one is. Sorry.
okay.
Well, might try and keep it consistent. So, it was like a dictionary of local dialect that only Scottish people use certain words, and what they would mean, and then it would be interesting to see if those words were still part of the language as it evolves in the future, or if new words have kind of evolved from the origins of our Scottish dialect.
Ah, okay. Can you say some of them?
Um, Like in Scotland, for the word church, we use the word kirk to describe a church, which is interesting because in Scotland we have a lot of influence from Vikings in
Mm.
Scandinavia. So when we were on holiday recently, we realised that kirk comes from Norway because they use the word kirke to describe church. So there's a lot of influence from England and Scandinavian countries as well. Um, the part of Scotland I'm from, I've discovered that there's a lot of Romany Gypsy influence in the language. So some of the words I use, other people in Scotland don't necessarily use. Like they use the word yag, which is Romany Gypsy for fire. So you would say your house is on yag instead of your house is on fire. Um,
Ah,
there's also the word panny, which describes like a stretch of water, like a part of a river or something, which is very Romany Gypsy. So although we call it Scots, there is influences from other cultures and whatnot that's helped form our
mhm.
language over the years.
Yeah. I've learned one word, but correct me if I'm wrong. It's pisht.
What's that?
Pisht.
Oh,
Drunk.
pished.
Yeah,
Yeah, pished. Yeah.
pisht. Ah,
In
okay.
Scotland, we have hundreds of words to describe people being drunk. Pished is just one of them.
Why?
Steaming
Because
was
people drink a lot?
hammered. Sorry?
Why do you have so many words? Because that's something common. I mean, people drink a lot.
People, yeah, and Scottish people are known for drinking a lot of alcohol, so I'm not surprised we have a lot of different words to describe it. And I guess it goes back
Yeah.
to Scottish dialect, where depending on the region of Scotland you're from, then they'll use a different word to describe people being drunk. There's so many words hammered. I mean, I'll use the clean words because some words are sort of offensive and swear words, but steaming, wasted. There's so many. We think that steaming comes from people in Glasgow. You weren't allowed to drink after a certain time on land, so they used to go on the steamy, which was a ship, and they
Yeah.
drink on the ship. So I think that's where steaming has potentially come from because they were on the steamer getting drunk at the time. So there's some. It kind of makes sense when you break it down like that, but generally, there's so many words that you could practically use any word to describe somebody being drunk. Really, there's so many.
Wow.
And there's some not polite words as well, which I won't mention here.
Okay, yeah, it's family friendly show. So,
Yes, exactly.
any other misconceptions people have about Scotland?
Yeah, so I was having to think about this, and I think it's becoming less so, but I get a lot of people that just assume I have a kill or I wear a kill all the time, and that is
Yeah.
totally not the case. I mean, it's more for like special occasions and stuff. I mean, I think the way movies sort of depict Scottish people is, I suppose if it's like Braveheart and movies like this, which are quite iconic, but that's a certain time period in time. People, we've moved on since then. So it's usually like celebrations, weddings, people graduating, birthdays, special occasions like that that people might wear kilts. And most people in Scotland don't have red or ginger hair, believe it or not. Most of us have dark hair,
Hmm.
to be fair.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have one?
Do I have a kilt?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I have wore one, but
Hmm.
I don't own one.
Okay.
When I went to my brother's wedding, I wore a kilt because all the men were expected to wear a kilt, so that was the only time I've properly worn the full
Yes.
gear.
Yeah. And for some of our listeners, maybe some of them they've never heard that. I don't want to say that word. I don't want to be offensive, but it's like a skirt, right?
It is, but Scottish people don't like you calling it that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm
So
sorry.
yeah, it's hard. It's hard to describe, but yes, it's like a skirt, but it's much longer in length because it comes down to just about your knee level, and then you wear socks that are of a certain length to your knee, and then the kilt then meets that, so there's not much skin on display, and then you have the sporran and the jacket and everything else to go with it. But yes, skirt is the closest word to it, but it's not a skirt if you know what I mean.
Yes.
It's not offensive to call it a skirt, but people
Ah.
just don't like it.
Cool. Can you explain us about the Scottish Highland Games?
I don't know an awful lot about it, but from what I do know, there's a couple of things. Well, one in particular is like tossing the caber. Now, for people who don't know what a caber is, it's like a long wooden log, and it's probably about 10 or 12 feet in length, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And basically, it's like a big strong man who probably will be wearing a kilt because it's the Highland Games, will throw this log as far as he possibly can. And then it's a competition to see who can kind of throw it the furthest, kind of thing. But also, it's also will involve like Scottish dancing and all this as well. So there's the game aspect, but also competitive country dancing, Scottish country dancing as well. I'm probably not doing it a good service, to be honest, because it's more predominant in the north of Scotland. So in the southeast where I live in Scotland, it's not that predominant, to be honest.
I see. So, James, do you have any closing thoughts before we wrap up? Maybe something that we've missed?
Yeah, don't be put off from coming to Scotland because you think it's going to rain 100% of the time. We do have good weather here. It's not
Yeah,
always rain.
when is the best time then?
And the countryside, the best time to come, it depends where you want to go. I would say the best time is summertime here, but sometimes summertime can be a little bit delayed. So maybe July, August, September. At this moment in time in September, where I live in Edinburgh, we're having a bit of a heat wave, so it's been 20
Oh, okay.
plus degrees Celsius here, so it's quite warm, unseasonably warm for this time of year. When it comes to like festivals, we've got the Highland Games as you mentioned, which is probably further north. I'm assuming that's June, July kind of period. We have the Edinburgh Festival, which is world renowned, usually in August. Because of the pandemic, that has been cancelled or restricted in the last year, but we're hoping that things will turn back to normal in the next year or two, because the population of Edinburgh is about 500,000, and it doubles during festival time. So you can imagine how busy it gets, and it's a real buzz to the city. And I do embrace it. A lot of local people don't like it, but I do embrace it as much as I can. And also Scotland is good for music, for its music scene, in particular Glasgow. There's lots of world famous acts come to Glasgow to perform, but we also have very popular local bands that are up and coming in Glasgow that support the international stars that come. So from a music perspective, and also Scotland's becoming very popular for being used in films as well. The most recent Fast and Furious movie was filmed in Edinburgh. Trainspotting 2 was out not long ago, again filmed in Edinburgh as well. One of the Infinity movies, the Avengers movie,
Wow.
was partially filmed in Edinburgh. So there's a lot of movies being filmed in the country at the moment, and certainly in the last 10 years. So we're a small country, but we're well known.
Well, James, thank you so much for taking the time and joining us today. It's been such a pleasure to talk with you and learn about your culture. And we hope to meet you one day in person, and who knows, maybe through couch surfing.
Yeah, but if you use couch surfing, you could stay with me through couch surfing if you come, and then I can tick off
Yeah,
the
yeah,
your
sure.
country on my map.
Yeah.
um, I not to be boastful, but I think I'm actually the number one host in Scotland.
Wow.
I think purely because I've hosted so many people, and in the whole of the UK, I've probably the second or third most hosted individual, or if that makes sense, the person that's hosted the most. So
Yes.
it's quite interesting that by default, I mean, it started off really slowly, but like before the pandemic, it really snowballed. I went from like 100 references to like 300 or 400 references in the space of 2 years or something. So it's really, I think once you get a good reputation, then people do stay with you, and once you appear at the top of the list, then people naturally speak to you, which is
Yeah.
good.
No wonder why you appeared like first when I typed UK and you were like on the
Oh,
top, the
that'll be
first
why
person.
then.
And
Yeah, I'm probably one of the top UK
yes,
people who are
yeah.
hosting in that'll be, oh, that's good. Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, and your profile is so good, so clear. You make it so clear. I mean, the explanation. Yeah, you mentioned all the important information that the guests should know about you and how to contact you. So, oh yeah, the last question.
Yeah, yeah.
Where should people go online to find more about you and to connect with you?
Well, I'm on Facebook. I'm also on Couchsurfing and Instagram and Twitter. So you could probably find me on either of these social media platforms, to be honest. But if
Okay,
you say that if you can find me via, how did you find me via Couchsurfing, or did you just Google
Couchsurfing.
search
Yes,
couch surfing?
Couchsurfing.
So yeah,
Yeah.
if you're a couch surfer, then I'll be like in the top, near the top of the list if you find me in the
Yeah.
UK or Scotland. Um,
Okay.
and I'm on Instagram and Twitter as well, but couch surfing is probably the easiest way to find me. And then the references speak for themselves.
Yes. Well, James, thanks again, and yeah, it's been a pleasure.
No, it's lovely to talk to you, and thanks for making my first podcast so easy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, you might enjoy our conversation with Puyan Mughadam about Iran. Here's the preview trailer.
500 years ago, we had a king. His name was Shah Abbas. And Shah Abbas decided to make 1,000 caravanserai in area of Iran. But finally, he constructed 999 caravanserai, not 1,000. Why? Because I believe of himself, 1,000 is a very complete number, is the number of God. And
Wow.
because of that, he decided to construct only 999 of caravanserai. In carpet would be similar. And even carpet, the symbol of carpet is a very symbolical design in Iran. Most of the carpet in Iran, if you look at for example, the design, you can see a center in it. For example, a flower in the center. And this flower in the center is the sign of God too. And even carpet, most of the carpet show the paradise, want to show the paradise with some symbolic flower, with symbolic shapes. And yes, it's right completely. That some of them they put some mistake in it to show that it is handmade, not made by God.